Hello and welcome to today's webinar on Cagliari, Sardinia, living there for a month or more with the Good Life Abroad. I am Andrew Motiwalla, the founder of the Good Life Abroad, and I have some special guests with me here today, and we'll introduce them in just a moment. But a bit of housekeeping as I share my screen. Today's webinar is being recorded. At the end of our conversation here, there will be time for Q&A. You can input your questions using the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. The recording of the webinar will be emailed to you tomorrow, not today, tomorrow. So stay tuned and sit tight, and here we go. All right, let's start with Cagliari. Andrea, what's the proper pronunciation in Italian and why?
Hi, Andrew. Hi, everybody. So the proper pronunciation for the city is Cagliari.
Cagliari. So
Cagliari.
A soft, sort of silent G.
Yes, correct.
All right. So, Andrea, please, let's introduce you to the audience. Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, so my name is Andrea Ledda. I was born and raised in Cagliari 45 years ago. I'm getting older. And so I studied here in Cagliari. I grew up here. And then at one point of my life, in my 30s, I moved to United States, where I lived for over a decade in California, specifically in San Diego. I work in the hospitality business. First in the Padre Stadium, I work as a supervisor. I also cover a role as a manager, and I even opened my own restaurant, an Italian restaurant, since I wasn't good with the sushi recipe. And anyway, life gave me a lot, several adventures, and at one point I decided to come back to Sardinia, since I have my family here still, my parents, and maybe I was a little bit nostalgic, I want to be honest with you. And I was missing probably also the slow rhythm, so the opportunity to enjoy life. And Sardinia is one of those places that can offer you that opportunity to slow down, enjoy.
Great.
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to add something else.
That's great.
I'm here, and I'm looking forward to have you in Cagliari.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you. My other guest here is Mike Vayda. Mike is our part of our program development team, and he was just recently in Cagliari. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Sure. Hello, everyone. As Andrew said, my name is Mike. I was actually in Cagliari just recently, and Andrew asked me to hop on this call with you because I've got some pretty fun things to talk about, having been there for the first time myself very recently.
Great. Thanks, Mike. I just want to start out with what makes this place special, because I will say I went to Cagliari for the first time in my life late last year, and it was magical. I'm a well-traveled person, and I've been to a lot of places in Europe, and Cagliari was different. It had a completely different vibe. After being in places that are very crowded with tourists, like Florence and Venice, going in Rome and going to Cagliari was like kind of what I had always dreamed of is Italy, sort of that, more, I don't know, laid back, and it wasn't so packed like some of these other cities. So for me, it was just completely, as Andrea said, a slowed down, different lifestyle. It was just a physically beautiful place. We went out to a winery, into olive gardens, olive fields, and it was very beautiful. I didn't have a lot of time to get into the historical aspects of it, but you could kind of see it all around. So those are my quick take, but I would love to hear Mike for you as an outsider, and then Andrea as someone who's local, what for you makes Cagliari special?
Yeah, so do you want me to go first, Andrea?
Go ahead. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'm the other outsider here, so we can get my perspective as well as Andrew's first. So, like Andrew said, I'm very similar. I've traveled a lot in my career. I love to travel. I've been to a number of different countries. I think it's 30 some countries now. Been to Italy many, many times, but I was really not expecting Cagliari to be what it was for me. Kind of piggybacking on what Andrew said, it just kind of feels magical because you're on an island in the middle of the Mediterranean, maybe because I just came from other places in Italy that were very busy and very loud. But the second my wife and I landed and we just spent the first night there, it just has a really just a special feel to it. It feels like Italy in all the good ways, but it also has its own unique personality. And we just were really kind of captivated by it. And I got on a call with Andrew. I said, listen, we really need to let people know how special this place is for the Good Life Abroad, because once people experience it, they'll want to go back again and again.
Thanks, Mike. Andrea?
Okay, yeah, so personally speaking, I love Cagliari for the size because allow me to don't do big plans to move around. So it's very, very enjoyable for me. And so literally I can go from the center to the beach or meet someone to a restaurant very easily and quickly. So no, personally speaking, since I'm not a big planner during my spare time, that's something that I really love. Then also Cagliari is a lovely sunny town. As a matter of fact, it's called the city of the sun. And that's because the weather that we have. Usually it's very sunny, nice temperature. So that makes everything more enjoyable. Has a rich history, great food, and plus, as I said before, you can enjoy the slow pace of life. But generally speaking, because Sardinia is not is a low populated, so that's give you the opportunity to go around and enjoy, some of the. I don't have the term right now. For example, is not very crowded. Actually, it's not very crowded, as you said, like other cities such as Florence or Rome. So, yes, it's an experience that I believe everyone should do. Coming to Cagliari and experience a different part of Italy that unfortunately is not very well known.
I agree. I think, one of the reasons I wanted to do today's conversation is because I feel like not a lot of people really know Sardinia. They know Rome, they know Florence, they know all the famous cities, but this takes a little more work to get to, but it's well worth it. So let's kind of take a snapshot of the city of Cagliari. And this is sort of a macro picture. And I included this because I wanted to show that while it is indeed a city, it has everything a city, but it's relatively small. In the middle, you can see the Good Life Abroad logo in a little red pin. That's sort of where our housing is located, just to give you a reference point. And you can see in the upper left corner is the airport. And that's about 15 minutes away. Really not far to get to the airport. And then in the lower right corner, you can see Poetto Beach. And that is about maybe 12 minutes in a car. And you don't even need to take a car to the beach because there's buses that run there. Just the city buses go to the beach. It's very easy to get to, or it's a very short taxi ride away. And it's a really beautiful beach. It's a really long strip of sand, but it also has a long walking and running path. And we'll talk more about that later. But so this is sort of the macro picture of Cagliari. Now let's zoom in a little bit. Now this map is just the city center area and the commercial districts. And some photos on the left that show you just sort of what the big walking streets are like right in that city center area. And you can see that the Good Life Abroad lodging is sort of right there, very close to the waterfront and the marina area, but also you can just go back into town and walk into you can see the shaded areas are all sort of the commercial areas, lots of shops and restaurants and bars, etc., and other things like that. Andrea, do you want to talk a little bit about the city center in the area and what people?
Yeah, absolutely. So the units, the apartment that we chose are exactly in the center, specifically in the neighborhood of Marina and Villanova, which are probably the most vibrant neighborhood in the city. La Marina was originally, being near the harbor, the sea, was the neighborhood for the fishermen, and now became very active with a lot of restaurants and bars, and it's also a multi-ethnical neighborhood. Villanova probably still a little bit calmer, but it's very nice because there's all these very colorful buildings. And but still during the summertime, going toward the summertime, gets very active with the restaurants as well and bar. I would say we couldn't get better position for our guests in order for them to enjoy the city. Yes, that would be it for me.
Great, thank you. Mike, do you want to add a little bit about kind of in terms of where you'll say that neighborhood around where the lodging is? Do you want to add anything?
I was just talking to my wife who was there with me about this call today, and she said, you've got to tell them that they're going to come out the door and they're going to make a left, and within a minute, they're going to look down and see the water, because that's how close you are to the marina and the water. So it's just such a great location because it's just that close to get down to the water, to get down to all the action down there and the sunshine. But then you can also go basically any other way, and you're in these really charming streets, cafes, restaurants, shopping, and it's really a great place to stay. We went out and we were trying to find some pizza, and we went to a local pizza place that were actually run by some relatively new immigrants coming into the city, and they were just the friendliest people. We had a great time stumbling through our Italian together, and it was just great to go out and get a pizza, bring it back to this apartment, probably this one right here, and just have a good evening. So location-wise, you really can't get much better in terms of being close to everything, but not being in too much noise, I guess I could say.
So here's a shot of the exterior of the building. Where the logo is the wooden door where you enter, and it's about I believe a 4 or 5 story building, but the building does have an elevator, so you can take the elevator up to your apartment. And let's kind of move. Here's some shots of the apartment, of the typical apartments. We have a handful of these. They all look pretty much identical. The one thing I'd want to point out is that the stairs that you see in the photo on the bottom left leads up to a lofted bedroom, which, as you can see, the bedroom on the upper right hand of the screen. So there are stairs to the bedroom area. The bathroom is downstairs, sort of behind that kitchen area. I should mention that all of these photos are available to view on our website. If you go to the locations menu and then Cagliari, and if you scroll down to the area of around apartments, you'll see a gallery of these photos, and you can kind of look at them at your own leisure. Mike, you stayed in one of these apartments. What did you think?
I think we stayed in the apartment in the top left. That was the picture I remember from there. like I said, location wise, which honestly for me, when you're in a place for a whole month, that's one of the most important things is how close am I to getting to every place that I want to go. And it's right in the middle of everything. Like I said, the stairs, like you mentioned, go up to the bedroom, but we found it very useful. We found the little mini kitchen there you can see in the bottom right to be adequate to, to do the basic kind of things, and felt very safe inside the apartment as well.
Yeah, I'll point out, it's hard to see, but it's a two burner electric stovetop, and I believe there's a microwave and a kettle there, and all the pots and pans and plates. And what we found in general with Good Life Abroad is, for the most part, people don't actually cook many meals in. They'll typically make breakfast there. They'll go out for lunch, perhaps, bring home some leftovers, and then use the kitchen to maybe heat up leftovers in the evening. So, or maybe make like a light salad or something. So it's not for, I wouldn't say this is for people who are like intensive cooks and chefs who want to have a gourmet kitchen, but it's perfect if you're gonna just have light meals in, maybe bring back leftovers and go out a bit. Andrea, anything you'd like to add about the apartments specifically?
Well, yes. Actually, I mean, as you say, the apartments are pretty much almost all identical. I really like the style of these apartments, and also I want to highlight in the center, people live in space that are not like like a huge apartment. So usual apartments are very like a smaller but very characteristic, eventually with a loft. So it's something very typical for us to have in the center of the city. Modern apartments, huge apartment, those stay outside on the edge.
That's a great point, Andrea. I really want to reinforce that. And I think it's important for people to understand is that if you're expecting sort of more of an American style, large apartment, that is all going to happen outside of the city center in sort of the new corporate areas.
Correct.
And if you want to be anywhere near the city center, these are historic buildings, older buildings that they can't just demolish everything and put up a big skyscraper with big apartments. So we made a conscious decision to stay in the city center in nice, smaller, I would say these are about 450 square feet, roughly. And when you add up all the space, including the loft, and we think it's a great trade-off for the reasons Mike said and Andrea said. The location, it has a lot of charm and character, but it is smaller than if you're coming from the US and expecting larger kind of American style apartments.
You say definitely right. Also, there are very strict rules when people need to do remodeling or renovating apartment or building something new in the center. So we gotta stick to a specific style usually.
Great, thank you. And for those wondering, yes, the apartments do have air conditioning, and I believe, Andrea, correct me if I'm wrong, they will have washing machines.
Yes, correct. A washing machine.
But not dryers. They will have drying racks to dry their clothes.
Yeah, let's do old style with the dryer racks. Yes, so Wi-Fi, AC, washing machine, a little kitchen, everything essential for a comfortable stay, obviously. And what else? Something else I want to say.
And it has smart TV, so you can have your streaming channels while you're there. If you can stream Netflix.
Yeah. Yes.
Great. Let's jump into the fun part. I'm sure there'll be more questions about the apartments, and people can ask them later in the Q&A. But let's talk about some of the program activities. What are they going to do when they're there, Andrea? Okay,
so as activity, we schedule our lunch club usually on Tuesday. Instead, on Thursday, we have the happy hours. And on Wednesday is the day dedicated to the, let's say, activities. So we schedule a walking tour, historical walking tour with our guests. We have a visit to one of the local winery, which is an organic winery. Also, I schedule that you see on top or left. That's the view of the from the Sella del Diavolo. We schedule a little hike to there with an aperitif prepared by myself, pretty much. Something more, like easygoing. But the view really worth the walk, which is not very challenging. And also the other things is going to be a pottery class with one of the local artists, Mr. Giovanni Vayda, which is a very talented person. So these are the main activities that we've been scheduled. But there is a way more that can be done, obviously.
Thank you. Mike, tell us about some of the things that you did in Cagliari. Obviously, we have a lot of activities scheduled, but I mean, this is a place where you can just fill up your free time exploring. Tell us about some of your explorations and adventures.
Well, first, I want to say that Andrea has put together a really fantastic program. I was able to go to the winery with him, experience that, go to the meet Giovanni, who is an unbelievable character, and he was just phenomenal. To meet the guy, to see him at work, he really just adds so much to your life. Honestly, it was just a great experience culturally. And then, like I said, because of where the apartments are, you can pretty much just walk out the door and say, which cafe should we go to this morning? Which bar should we go to for our Aperol Spritz tonight? There's just so many different opportunities to go to that it's just phenomenal. And we were only there for a few days, but people that travel know that if you're there for a month, you can start to create relationships with people. So you can walk into your favorite place and they'll recognize you, and it just gets that nice kind of a cheers feeling where everybody knows at least who you are when you walk in. The city is big enough that there's a lot to do, but it's not overwhelming. It's not Rome with all of its beauty. It's overwhelming, and it's not, we keep picking on Venice and Florence. They're wonderful places, but they're very touristy. And so you come here and you're not going to feel like you're one of groups and groups of tourists. You're going to walk around and feel like you're actually see more locals than you see people that are tourists. So for all those reasons, it's really just a great place to go.
Thanks, Mike. I do see a photo on the upper right. Looks like some cooking. Andrea, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Sorry, I was forgetting. My bad. And yes, there's going to be also like a cooking class. Actually, we are going to make some pasta with the Daniela, which more than a chef, I define as an artist, because I would invite everyone to check her Instagram, for example, and the plates she create are just amazing. Really. So we are going to have a little class with her, and we are going to prepare our own lunch, so we cannot do wrong.
Now, Andrea, let's take a little tangent. I'm going to deviate from the script. When I was in Cagliari, I had some of the best meals I have ever had, and there were some. Again, I've been to Italy before, and I'm a big foodie. But I had some meals of some dishes that I had not seen in other parts of Italy. Can you tell us a little bit about Sardinian cuisine specifically and what is unique?
Yeah. Okay. So generally speaking, the best part of Italy is that every region has its own cuisine. Sardinia as well. So yes, we are famous, for example, for the maialetto, which is the piglet that you try the night. That's one of the most probably, that's what we are popular for in all Italy. We make a different type of pasta. One of my favorite are the culurgionis, which is this type of ravioli filled with cheese, potato, and mint, which is a recipe traditionally from the center of Sardinia. We have other type of pasta, and also being an island, obviously we have access to a big variety of fish and seafood. Obviously, we like to pair everything with some good wines, and Sardinia as well make really good wines. I was able, when I was in US, in fact, there were several Sardinian wines that I was able to get. Probably the most popular are Vermentino, which is a white wine, and Cannonau, which is a red wine.
And I love that, those pastas. I remember having it as one of my favorite meals. That was great. So, and as you mentioned, we'll visit a winery. That's one of the photos here. And then the flamingos is funny because I thought it was, I think flamingos are funny in general, but it's actually this saltwater lagoon right inside the city with flamingos, and you can kind of make out the buildings in the background. I think it's just an interesting thing. Personally, I like bird watching. If there's any birders in the audience, it's a great place to look at birds as well. Great. All right. So, you might be thinking, well, do I want to go to Cagliari? I'm looking at maybe other Good Life Abroad destinations. This is sort of how I see Cagliari and how I think about often many of our community members at the Good Life Abroad. There's some folks who they want to see and do things every single day. They want to go to another museum or a cathedral, or they want to do a lot. And so a city like Barcelona or Paris or London, these capital cities, you can just run and do as much as you want, and you'll never get to the end of it all. But there's other people within the Good Life Abroad who want to really just immerse themselves in a different lifestyle. It's more of a lifestyle location that still has lots of things to do. There are museums and cathedrals and art galleries. But for me, the thing that I love so much is this lifestyle where you go to the beach, you can go for a hike, you can go in the water, you can, for me, I like to play tennis, and I know there's paddle, which is another racket sport that we saw. So you can go for a run, a walk. It's just a place where you would want to live. And if you want to go out and do things, you can, but it's just really a welcoming lifestyle. And as someone who lives in coastal California, I feel some similarities where in California, for me, going to the beach is just, part of my day. It's something I like to do. And I did the same thing when I was in Sardinia. Let's go first, Mike, and then Andrea, if you want to add.
I would say that there's, again, only having been there once, but kind of falling in love with the place. I think there's something about it being an island that, it just has its own place. And Andrea was telling me that it's a self-sustaining island, meaning they can grow everything that they need right on the island. So they're very independent in that way. And it feels unique culturally because yes, it's Italian, but it's not Italian. It's Sardinian. They're just very unique in that way. And so you get this opportunity to fly less than an hour from Rome, and you're in this own little ecosystem that is self-sustaining and self-contained. And I think about staying there for a month and how, like Andrew said, this is not the same thing as checking off the 14th museum. This is, I'm living here. We're living here together, and we're creating our own new habits, our own new ways of life. This is the place where you could write your novel. This is the place where you could read your books. This is the place where you could slow down and do all those things that you've been meaning to do, but you just can't because the lifestyle where you live is just not conducive to that. So I think you can tell from Andrew and the way we're talking that we were kind of bewitched by this place.
Thanks, Mike. Andrea?
Yes, I'm going to repeat what you just say. Obviously, it's not, let's say, developed like other cities. In terms of a museum, obviously we have a lot of art and culture, so we have also the museum, but I wouldn't focus on that during your stay. Exactly, it's a city that can be enjoyed in the activities and being outdoor. So being an island, we have one of the most famous crystal waters, and believe me, when you're going to be here, you're going to stay probably as much as possible at the beach because it's safe. So you are going to enjoy swimming. If you like sailing, you can take classes, sailing classes, or rent a sailing boat or a boat and just, go out in the water and discover more. Andrew, you mentioned about paddle tennis, you can do kayaking, hiking, windsurfing. I don't know if some people like doing windsurfing. Those are a lot of options. Just walk on the beach, do some jogging, enjoy your cappuccino in front of the water. I mean, it's really take your time, enjoy your life, enjoy your moment, enjoy Cagliari.
Thank you, Andrea.
Andrew, I would just want to add one thing real quick, that the historical walking tour that we took with Andrea and the gentleman was fascinating. That it caused me to slow down. I love history, and just to slow down, he was just pointing out how much history is in this island, and he pointed out places that were hidden that I couldn't see. And it's a perfect tour because you get a chance to go, okay, I'm going to come back here, come back here, come back here. And over the month, I'm going to go back to these places. So there's plenty of history. There's plenty of stories, as well as the outdoor lifestyle as well.
I think those are the two words I think of when I think of it, is outdoor lifestyle and history everywhere. And food, of course. I can't forget about the food.
And wine.
And so I guess there's a lot of things.
Yeah, Andrew, sorry.
Ahead,
if I just add, yes, Cagliari probably is like 800 years old, with the main influence from Spain and the Pisan culture, so which is going to be 1200, 1300 after Christ. But in Sardinia, we have probably one of the most ancient civilization, which is the Nuragic one, which dated 2,500, 3,000 years before Christ. So there is more that need to be discovered.
Thanks, Andrea. And the city alone has a lot to offer, but the entire island is a wonderful place to discover. And these are just some of the main attractions or places that a lot of people like to visit when they go to Sardinia. And the great thing is, while you can rent a car, of course, the island is connected by train and bus service. So I know that I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but Villasimius to Cagliari is it's a short bus ride. I mean, less than 2 hours. You just hop on a bus and get off, and you're in the town, and you can then do everything on foot. Even to go to the north of the island, there's Trenitalia, which is the national rail service, has trains that go to the other cities. So you don't have to necessarily rent a car, but renting a car is also possible. Andrea, any thoughts on getaways?
Yeah, I mean, probably I'm a little bit spoiled. So personally speaking, I would prefer to rent a car, but you say right, there is also trains and buses, or some like also car sharing options if someone wants to. Yes, Villasimius, you pronounce very well, Andrew. Villasimius from Cagliari by car is about, I would say, 45, 1 hour, depends how you drive. Probably a little bit longer with the bus, just because they are the stops in the middle. And Villasimius is just one destination, but if someone wants to, can stop even before Villa Simius, because there are other nice beaches that worth to be visited.
Thanks. Yeah, that was one of my thoughts. If I were to go back for more time, just hopping on these buses and going out and exploring little towns and villages along the coast, it seemed like it'd be a fun way to spend a day or a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
One of the great things about Sardinia is the weather. And now you can see in the graph where it gets quite hot is July, August. However, that's not when the Good Life Abroad is running its programs. And so some people say to me, well, you know, especially the retirees who are also snowbirds who you know, they have the best of both worlds. In the winter, they go south where it's warm, and in the summer, they go back north. You know, they can have everything kind of perfect. And they say, oh, well, January, February, you know, 60 degrees, it seems a little cool. But I'll tell you, as someone who grew up in Chicago, or for on behalf of all my Canadian friends, 60 degrees in January and February is a wonderful temperature to enjoy. And best of all, the tourists aren't there. They come in the summertime primarily, and but really coming in those shoulder seasons or even in the winter months, it's nothing compared to a cold that you might experience in the northern states of the US or in Canada. So I think it's a unique opportunity for people to get away in the dead of winter and go somewhere where it will not be crowded, very authentic, and still quite enjoyable, even, you know, just with a sweater or a light jacket, and even at the lower temperatures. Andrea,
I would add, Andrew, that we were there in February, and it's great weather because of the sunshine. The sun is so warm that the mornings are cool, the evenings are quite cool, but during the days you just have that bright sunshine, and it feels much warmer than it really is temperature wise. And then it's kind of nice because in the evening you can just put a light jacket on and still go out and walk around and still feel like you're comfortable there too.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Andrea.
Oh, yes. Obviously, there is a difference between North Sardinia and South Sardinia, but since we are in Cagliari, we are a little bit luckier. Even just like yesterday, there were like about 68 Fahrenheit. So it was pretty amazing. And we are in March, when the weather probably is a little bit more unstable. But months such as May, June, or October, even November. I mean, it happened to me before to go and swim at the beach in November. I mean, that was pretty amazing. When I say swimming, I mean, I wasn't wearing any wetsuit, you know, just trunk suit and get into the water because the weather was just amazing.
Yeah, it was November when I was there, and I was fully swimming just in my swimsuit in the ocean and having a great time. So I think there's no bad time to go to Sardinia. And I know for 2025, the Good Life Abroad, we have a group going in May coming up soon, and then October. But in 2026, we have many more sessions. We have things, I believe, in February and March. So perfect for that winter getaway. And we have things in the fall and also in the shoulder seasons. We don't have anything in the middle of summer, which is probably fine for our community members. All right, so next steps. You're thinking, I want to do this. This is great. I'm sold. I want to eat that food. I want to drink that wine. I want to have that outdoor experience and historical dive into history. Well, a couple things. If getting there, people might want, okay, how do I get there? It seems kind of remote. Well, the truth is, when you go to most places in Italy, like, for example, Florence or Pisa or Bari, other than Rome, and I believe Milan, you're going to have to make some connection somewhere in Europe. I believe there is a direct flight from the US to Cagliari, but it's not every day. So what I do from San Diego is there's a direct flight to London, and then from London there's a direct flight to Cagliari. So that's easy. I'm going to have to make a connection in Europe anyway. So the question is, where do you connect? I know for people on the East Coast, There's a lot of direct flights to Rome. And then from Rome, there's many daily flights to Cagliari from Rome. People up in the Northwest, I know from San Francisco, it's a similar thing. You can fly directly into different European cities and then quickly connect down. So it's not as complicated as some people might think, and it's not as expensive as you might think, because you're flying into Europe anyway, and then it's an intra-European flight. Okay, then you're ready to book. What do I got to do? So on the Good Life Abroad website, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner. It says Book Now. You can find your session date. It's $395 per person to make your booking. 30 days later, 50% is due, and then about 100 days before you go, the balance is due. You can see our cancellation and refund policy off to the right, bottom right there. All right. We're going to go into some Q&A. You can think about your questions. If you have questions, there's an icon at the bottom of your screen that says Q&A. It might be behind the 3-dot menu. If you're on Zoom, there will be 3 dots, and you have to click that and then go to Q&A. But before we take your questions, and I will review those, let's do any sort of closing thoughts from Mike or Andrea.
I would say this. I travel a lot. But still, when I see a name of a city that I can't pronounce, it's a little like off-putting. And I'd never even heard of this city before, honestly, until maybe a year ago. I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. And you look for and see where it is, and it's on an island, and how weird is it, and so forth. It exceeded my expectations. I really had no idea how beautiful it is. I really had no idea the opportunities that are there on this island. And, I spent time with Andrea, and Andrea has this great gift because he's been in the US and he's also from Cagliari. So he's really easy to communicate with. He's really easy to work with. He loves his job. My wife and I felt like we were just, being entertained by a friend by the end of the time we were with him. It really is a great opportunity to take all that advantage of what the Good Life Abroad has to offer as far as a community, which is fantastic, but also this really unique place that is very different than any other place that the Good Life Abroad offers. So I would encourage you, if you've been to all the places in the past and you know the big cities, this is some place that I think you're really going to enjoy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with feeling like having a local friend in a place, and that's the best feeling. And the best way to see a city is when you've got a friend there to show you around. Andrea?
Well, thank you, Mike, for your words. And yes, definitely, Sardinia is a very unique place. I would say special, which is going to leave something inside, really. As a matter of fact, I decided to come back because there was a strong attachment that I have with this island. But like me, I know many other people who did the same. And I am recently been in touch with other foreigners who decide to make Sardinia their own home because they came here, they visited, they love it. They even decide to move to Sardinia because the lifestyle, the people, the food, it's a mix of things that makes your life more enjoyable.
Great, thank you. All right, let's dive into some questions from our
Sorry,
guests.
Andrew, I was forgetting. And Sardinia is rated among the blue zone, which provides something very important to say.
And tell us about blue zones. I know that these are places in the world where people live unusually long lifespans. But why is that? And what is it about Sardinia that lets people live so long?
It's specifically there are a specific area in Sardinia where you have a higher percentage of over 100 years old people. And the reason is usually the lifestyle these people led and the quality of food. As Mike said before, we have also like an own ecosystem where we grow our own food and which give you the opportunity to access to high quality food. So we eat well and we live well. So all these things together boost the longevity in Sardinia.
It truly sounds like the good life abroad. All right, let's jump into some questions here. Some of them I'll take and go quickly, and some I'll address to our panelists. Do apartments have heat and TV? TV, yes, including a smart TV for streaming, air conditioning, and Andrea, heat, I believe, as well. Yes?
Yes, correct. The unit system works both for AC or heat.
Great. Talk about seasons. October warm. I think you heard us talking about the weather. Yes, October is warm. Definitely weather to swim in the ocean. Weekend trips. Where can we go via ferry? Is there ferry boats that they can take around?
Okay, ferry boat that takes you around. Really, there's the ferry that heading to Rome stops in another town in Sardinia. Otherwise, another way, just sailing boat that you can sail around Sardinia if you want. But I want to say this: Sardinia is an island, but it's not a small island. I mean, it's the second largest island in the Mediterranean, so it would take time. Mm-hmm. But with the ferry, generally speaking, connects you to Spain, for example, or to the peninsula, the Italian peninsula.
I think that's the big takeaway for me. It was the ferry is more the long distances, and to go around the island is train, car rental, or bus. And someone is asking about car hire. Yep, you can hire a car, but you can also hire a guide if you wanted to do a guided tour to another town. There's tour operators and travel agencies that Andrea can actually connect you to and offer you optional weekend tours to go to other parts of the island.
Absolutely.
The music venues. Are there music venues? I think I know the answer, but Andrea, maybe you could speak to that and maybe some of your favorite places.
There are music venues. There are also some music festivals. Depends on the month. For example, there's a jazz festival, but at the beach, usually in the summertime, there are several kiosks. So it's also possible to listen some live music. There are other places where they play live music. Or for those who like dancing, people can also enjoy some salsa. I know it's not traditionally from Sardinia, but I like salsa and bachata. So you have the opportunity to take lessons. And
I think there's a jazz club as well. I think I saw some places playing jazz while I was there.
Yes.
Next question is English widely spoken? And maybe, how do one handle it if they don't speak Italian? Maybe Andrea go first, and then Mike, you can share your personal experience.
Okay, hand gesture, that's the most important. Exactly. English is spoken probably not the common, but if you go to a restaurant, it's more common to find the staff who speaks English. So in a restaurant, you should not have any problems. So probably you need to learn some Italian for safety.
And we do a quick crash course during the Good Life Abroad program, I believe, where they'll learn some basic phrases that will get you, into the great greetings and, get the bathroom and get the taxi and whatnot.
Yes. And sorry, Andrew, can you repeat 1 second?
I was just saying that they will we give that basic crash course of basic Italian greetings for them.
Okay. So and also there is some Italian school, actually just behind the corner where the building is, where the apartments are located. So if someone wants to, can also take Italian lessons.
Absolutely. Mike, I know you don't speak Italian, so how did you do it?
I've been doing Duolingo for about a year now, and I know like Piccolo, that's all I know. I would say that whether you're an introvert like I am or not, just push yourself out a little bit. Just say parli inglese, and if they say a little, then you can use your hand motions. Google Translate is your friend. Google, it works really well. But I found over the course of spending the past 5 weeks in Italy, that I had to just kind of push myself a little bit, and people were very friendly. Start with a smile, and then shrug your shoulders and learn hand motions, and you can get by very easily. And also, most of the younger people do know English enough to, to get by if you need to for whatever reasons.
Yeah, I think you're right. The older folks, not as much. The younger people, a lot more. And technology is your friend. With that Google Translate app, you can, I don't know what it's called, but in my phone, I just put it over the menu and suddenly it magically appears in English. Someone was telling me we have one of our very techie Good Life Abroad community members bought these glasses now that you can tap and you can see things in other languages and it will tell you it in English and you can have really, the technology is amazing these days. Let's jump in. Maximum group size in general, across the Good Life Abroad, 20 is roughly the maximum. We might go to 22, 24. In Cagliari specifically, we're looking at smaller group sizes, probably around 10 to 16 in that range. It will probably vary from session to session, but it's definitely one of the smaller communities we have. I think part of it just, it's not as well known as some of the other places. So that's group size. How do you manage cell phone usage? Personally, for me, I have T-Mobile. When I go to anywhere in Europe, including Sardinia, my phone just works. That's not a commercial for T-Mobile, but I know that we have other solutions as well. Mike, do you want to share?
Yeah, I can jump in because I don't have T-Mobile yet, but on the Good Life website, what's it called? Truly, the eSIM. It sounds kind of techy, but honestly, my recommendation is call your cell phone company here, and then as long as you have an eSIM, you can just go online and get what you need for data very quickly and cheaply through this company called Truly, and it worked truly well for me in Sardinia, no problem at all. Just like I had my own number, and it was a very inexpensive way to do it.
I believe it's about $20 for the month, and it'll cover you anywhere in Europe, and it gives you a local number, and it lots of data, and you won't have any problems. You'll get more information about that after you book. We have your trip portal, and we'll have some information about this Truly eSIM solution. Are bike rentals available? Andrea, want to speak to bike rentals?
Yes, there must be. There are some opportunity to rent a bicycle if someone wants to. Some months will be very busy, so it always depends on depends on the month. But yes, there is the opportunity to rent a bicycle. So if someone wants to, just one thing, Cagliari, it's it's developed on the hills as well. So there could be uphill streets or downhills. So it's not as flat as the Netherlands, just to be clear. But staying on the lower part near the harbor, going to the beach, that part is all flat, so suitable for bicycle riding.
This ties into another question that came in asking, we have apartments without stairs. I believe there's one perhaps, but they all do have stairs. But the concern from the person making the question was about just difficulty with mobility. And I would say, unfortunately, Cagliari is not the best place if you have difficulty with mobility. Even if you had an apartment with no stairs, the city itself has stairs on these hills. I think this is an important thing to warn people about. You could be going around the street and suddenly find yourself in a staircase going up or down, in places where maybe it's cobblestone streets, very uneven. So as Andrea said, there's hills in the town itself, So you do need to be able to walk up hills and down hills and upstairs and downstairs, whether that's in your apartment or just around town. Is that a fair assessment, gentlemen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to be walking a lot, and it is built on a hill. So yes, walking's wonderful and necessary.
This person referring to something you said, Mike, this housing is in a multicultural area. What does that mean? And then sort of, is it safe? Which I don't know if that's connected to multicultural, but just the general safety and security in the area.
Yeah, we felt completely safe in the area. It's it all depends on where you come from. Obviously, if you come from a farm, understand it's a city. If you come from a city at all, you're going to find that it's very safe and very easy to get around without any concerns whatsoever compared to the majority of American cities, definitely.
I think that's a really good point, Mike, and something I tell people all the time is it completely depends on your frame of reference. If you live in, let's say I'm in San Diego, and I live in the heart of the city. For me, a city is multicultural is part of the joys of living in the city. Yes, sometimes you see graffiti in places, but it's graffiti. This is at most cities around the world. If you live in San Diego County in the suburbs in a gated community, you're going to be in for a culture shock. It's completely different. So it really depends on your frame of reference. I have friends in gated communities right here in northern San Diego County, and no, there's no graffiti. There's very little multiculturalism. There's it's just different. So I think the real, the safety itself is an objective factor, and Sardinia is a very safe city. Multiculturalism, things that you're going to see that you're not used to, perhaps seeing graffiti, seeing older buildings, that really comes, I think, based on your perspective where you're coming from. But I would say it's very Italian city, for lack of a better word. Andrea, do you want to add to that?
Well, no, Cagliari is overall a safe city. I personally never had any issue with that. You mentioned about graffiti. That's unfortunately a sad reality for Italy. Unfortunately, people are not very respectful, but that doesn't mean the area is unsafe. It just is not nice to look at it. But yeah, about safety, there is no issue with that. Plus, they are in the center, so which is busier, and families. So it's not. It wouldn't be my concern, the safety. Of course, during the orientation, I'm going to point out eventually which area of the city would be better to avoid, but not because it's dangerous, more because it's nothing interesting, or there's no business to run there. But for the center, for where we are, for the city in general, I mean, it's safe.
Yeah, and I'll say the same thing that I say about every city that Good Life Abroad is in. It's Europe. The most incidents of crime is going to be minor things like pickpocketing, especially in crowded areas. There's not violent crime, definitely not guns like in the U.S. It's not violent crime, very, very, very low. It's more of nuisance crime like pickpocketing and things like that you might run across in the worst case scenario. Do we need to bring cash, euros, for a month in Cagliari, or is credit card preferable? How much cash does one need? I'll answer the first part, how much cash does one need? It varies based on how much you spend. You can take weekend guided tours around the island. Those cost money. You can go to Michelin-starred restaurants. Those cost money. So there you need to really think about your own spending habits. But if you were to strip all of that away and say, okay, just sort of day to day, if I don't go to fancy restaurants, maybe I eat out at just local places and I'm not taking expensive tourist places. I think if you're just buying groceries, and maybe going out to very local places, about $1,000 for the month should be about fine. Your Tuesday lunch clubs, your happy hours, your cooking classes, those are all included in the program fee. Those do not cost extra. It's just how much do you want to be going out to eat, and how much do you want to spend on tours and things like that. So, and in terms of cash, personally, I stick to credit card and keep maybe 100 euros just in case there's some small vendor that doesn't accept it. But I tend to just go to credit card or go to the ATM there if I need some cash. Mike, any advice?
I would say the biggest surprise for me over the past year spending in Europe is how widely accepted Apple Pay is. So like if you have an iPhone, you can easily just tap to pay almost anywhere. In my experience, and Andre, you can correct me if I'm wrong. The one area that I would say though is if you want to leave some tips, which is entirely up to you, having a few euros and some change is good because it's not easy to add tips to your paying when you go to a restaurant. So, having a few euros here and there just to put down to be nice for tips is useful. But I've hardly ever had to pull out my credit card even to pay because it's so widely accepted there.
Yes, tips is now part of our culture. As you guys said, credit cards, debit cards are widely accepted. However, maybe American Express sometimes could not be accepted. But exactly, bringing some cash is always a good idea, generally speaking, but it's also true that if someone needs it, can also withdraw money at any ATM machine whenever they need.
Yeah, I found that American Express not always accepted. That's good to know. Another question: since you do not provide airport transfers, how easy is it to get a taxi to take? Do they take cards, English spoken? I would tell you personally, you arrive at the airport, the line of taxis, just walk out, hand them the address of your apartment, which we will provide to you before you go, and just hand it, no problem. You don't even have to speak. Taxi drivers at the international airport often will speak English, but if you give them that address, the taxis are right there. They'll just take you to your place, and yes, they do take credit cards. I think that's a pretty easy one. Question of Americans needing a visa. It's for the EU. It's not a visa. I'll clarify that. We can talk more about that separately. If you have more questions that we don't get to today because we are running out of time, please send them to info@thegoodlifeabroad.com, and a member of our office will be able to answer more of your questions. But specifically, the question is, it's the ETIAS system, which I'm not sure if they're going to implement it this year. It's been punted for many years. They've been talking about this, but all it is an electronic travel authorization. It's simply going to a website, filling out a form, paying a small amount of money, and getting yourself registered in their electronic system. The whole thing takes minutes. It's not a visa like where you have to send your passport away and get it back. This is something you do online in minutes for a small fee, and our team will work with you if it becomes a requirement before you go to Sardinia or any destinations. Are all apartments in the same building? I believe for our group that's coming in May, yes, and October, probably. Is that correct, Andrea?
We have 5 apartments in the same building and 2 other in 2 different locations. Like I'm talking about, probably the further one is 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes of walking. But the goal would be to have everyone placed in the same building also in the future.
What size beds are in the apartment? They are Euro Queen. So it's I believe a European Queen is I believe 2 centimeters smaller than the American Queen size bed. Does the cost include airfare? No, airfare is separate. What about healthcare? It's an island. Is there a hospital? Absolutely, there's a hospital. And we have connections to English-speaking medical professionals there if something were to happen. Are there 2-bedroom apartments? We can find 2-bedroom apartments. Please contact our office. It's possible. I believe there's one even in the same building, but we don't block them out like we block out the other ones. We do it more upon request. So if there's someone who wants a 2-bedroom apartment, it is possible. Please contact us and we can get back to you about that. Is there something like Uber there? Not Uber, but there are taxis around the city center. Andrea, do you want to speak to that? Maybe other apps for car sharing or taxis?
Yeah, so Uber, there's Uber, but at the end is run by taxi or NCC, which is a private service. So pretty much are those, like a nice tint window van with a private driver, usually often used for larger groups, but even for 2 people, but max from 1 to 8 passengers. Otherwise, there's a nice service called a Play Car, which you use an app, and the cars are located in several areas of the city. You reserve your car, you go there, you drive your car, you pay through the app, and pretty much you use that car according to your need. For example, you can reserve the car for 1 day, 2 days, depends on. And you can park without paying the parking. You can drive through ZTL, which is an area with a limited traffic. So it's in some ways convenient.
Great, thank you. Is there a yoga studio? Yep, there is a yoga studio. I saw it myself. Good place for solos. I would say in general, about 30% of Good Life Abroad participants are solo travelers. It varies from session to session, obviously, but in general, that's what we find. And I think this program specifically, because most of the apartments are all in the same building, that it's great because you've got people in the same building as you. Check in at the apartment. Our Andrea will be there on arrival day, getting people settled into their apartments. We're running out of time. So, yep, there's another question about arrival into apartments. Extremely informative. Thank you. Okay, if we didn't get to one of your questions, please email our office, info@thegoodlifeabroad.com. I would like to thank you, Mike, for participating in this, and thank you, Andrea, for being part of our community and making Sardinia a place on people's radars. Hopefully we'll be able to join you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.